I'd like to acknowledge those who've joined us since we've been chatting. Got Della and Leo and Sandy. So welcome everybody. It's Palm Sunday, so we're a week away from Easter, and in the Christian liturgical calendar, obviously this is a very important time of year, but in the Christian metaphysical calendar, it's also a wonderful and powerful time. And so let's start with today's daily word, which of course is about Palm Sunday. And I'm going to put it on the share screen here and ask if anybody would be willing to read the daily word for us.
I can do it.
Thank you.
Okay. Palm Sunday. On Palm Sunday, I celebrate the divine presence within. Sunday, April 13th, 2025. Today is Palm Sunday, the commemorative of Jesus' arrival in Jerusalem that symbolizes the awakening of the Christ awareness in humankind. Those who'd followed Jesus into Jerusalem shouted, Hosanna, blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Imagining this joyous scene, I feel inspired to follow Jesus's actions and express more and more of the love, peace, joy, and light of my Christ nature. As Holy Week begins, I open my heart and mind to more fully embody and share the Christ of my being. I feel blessed knowing others around the world are doing the same. Together, we bring peace and healing to the world and to one another, fulfilling the promise of Jesus. So they took branches of palm trees and went out to meet him, shouting, Hosanna. Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. John 12:13.
Thank you. So on this Palm Sunday, or on Palm Sunday, I celebrate the divine presence within. Let's affirm that together. On Palm Sunday, I celebrate the divine presence within. I think this is the key to what we were discussing before we started formally here. The divine presence. It's all about not merely the divine presence, because the divine presence is there infinitely 24/7. It's about really our consciousness of the divine presence and our willingness to surrender to that divine presence. And so over the past few weeks, we've been discussing healing and the role of the divine presence in healing. And now we've moved to the third lesson, which is on prosperity, which is equally about the divine presence within. So let's move over to that. Last week we read the first three paragraphs, and I thought just to refresh our memory, I'd take a look at this. This is, I think, the key to the first three paragraphs. True prosperity is a rich state of mind, a consciousness of rich ideas, a consciousness which recognizes the individual's oneness with infinite mind, with all the ideas of supply and service which inhere in that mind or mind essence, which is another name for substance. We're going to get into substance here in a minute. But just before we move on to that, any reflections that might have come to your mind over the past week about this idea of true prosperity being a rich state of mind, a consciousness of rich ideas, recognizing the individual's oneness with infinite mind?
I read a little bit on the metaphysical dictionary, and it says a lot about substance. The one little paragraph that I liked said, men have not recognized substance because their minds have been centered on effect instead of cause, on manifestation in matter instead of the idea back of manifestation. And I love that.
Consciousness of infinite mind. Well, let's move on then, because we're going to talk about substance. Nice introduction for us on that, Janet. And who would like to read paragraph number 4?
I can do it. I think I'll try.
Okay.
Substance and prosperity. What is substance? Substance, and then there's number 1 down below. Should I read it within the text or read it after?
Let's read it after, okay?
Okay. Substance is not so generally recognized as some of the other attributes or ideas of God, such as life, love, wisdom, and power, but it is very necessary to the well-being of man, and it should be recognized and studied and used. Substance is mind essence, the body of God. It is omnipresence, all penetrating, all potential, all intelligent, all providing, all sustaining, everywhere present. It is the foundation of the universe, all things being formed from it, the structure upon which all things are made. It is that in which ideas live and move and have being, just as fish lives and moves and has being in water. Although substance or mind essence is invisible and intangible to the outer eye of manifest man, man has the power of thought or of image making by which he can attune himself to spirit, and by this mind activity come to see and feel divine substance as a living reality. From this living reality or substance, we form in our mind mental images or pictures of whatever we will or desire, whatever we think or feel. These forms then take shape in the outer or physical realm as things, circumstances, and conditions, and are known as form substance, matter, or material things.
Okay, now if we could just review
Notes?
the notes.
Okay. Note 1 is substance. Metaphysically, substance is an idea in divine mind, an attribute of being. It is the spiritual essence out of which all things are made. And little paragraph, little parentheses say RW/substance. 2, it is not so generally recognized. It is visible and comprehensible to mind, but the 5 senses of man cannot apprehend it. Substance is made visible to the sense man by our thought. However, we do not see it as it is in being, but as it appears to our limited understanding. We have not recognized substance because our minds have been centered on effect instead of cause, on manifestation and matter instead of the idea back of manifestation. And 3, man has the power of thought. We have access to the divine realm from which all thoughts are projected into the world. We are constantly taking ideas from the spiritual world and forming them into our own conception of the things we desire. Sometimes the finished product does not satisfy our desire. Sometimes the finished product does not satisfy or please us. That is because we have taken the idea away from its true parents, wisdom and love, and let it grow to maturity in an atmosphere of error and ignorance. Friends for Charles Fillmore and Prosperity, page 30.
Thanks,
John.
Janet. It's a lot there in this paragraph, and including the notes. So any thoughts or ideas or concerns about substance?
You're right. There is a lot.
Claudia, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Okay.
Well, the
There we
good I
go.
did with my hands, huh? Because then you knew.
Well, I understood what you were saying, but maybe we all did.
Well, I was saying it reminds me of the concept of how large is your aperture? How much are you taking in? Because we're here, but yet you know, like on a camera lens, you just keep opening it up to take in more and more. And that's kind of the substance of that which we live in and move and have our being in.
Cool. Thank you. Anything else? If not, we can move on to substance and matter.
I just wanted to say one thing that shows how ignorant I am. I've never heard the word substance. And that's why I was looking it up in the dictionary and really, really trying to listen today and why I wanted to read it out loud. But I do understand the concept. And I agree with Claudia 100% that the older I get and the more I study, just in general, the wider the aperture gets. And I understood everything I read, basically. And I thought, you just didn't know it was substance. So that cheers me up. And I bet you I know way more than I think I do. I just don't know what the label for it. So that's that.
At some point in time in our lives, is that aperture opens, it gets to a certain point where there's an invisible label that says wisdom.
Hmm.
Well, and if this works, you really have to watch your thoughts because, so many people think negatively. Oh my God, I was afraid that was going to happen, and it happens.
Or worse, I knew that was going to happen. Like,
Yeah.
oh, good.
I knew he was going to be mean or whatever.
Yeah, the other thing in my mind that goes, see?
Yeah, that power of thought. You really have to watch it.
This is Cynthia. One of the things that came to mind reading this several times and still trying to figure out if I really understood anything was that once you pick up a little piece of understanding or knowledge, and I was thinking of it in regard to substance, and wisdom was just mentioned. I think the more I get a inkling of what I understand and think about it and meditate on it, the more I realize how much I don't understand and how much more I need to think and study. And that was just kind of mind blowing to me. There's so much to learn, and the idea of keeping a positive mind, to me, every day seems more and more and more important. And what a job we have to do with regard to the world, and how grateful I am for unity and all these principles. It's but the more I know, the more I realize, the more I don't know. So that's what that comes to mind when I've been reading this over and over to try and get it.
Amen.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I first read about substance, I think is it in Lessons in Truth? I forget, does Emily use a substance?
Not that I recall.
Yeah, somewhere anyway in early writings. And it didn't make any sense to me. It's like, what?
It's a big Dorothy thing. Dorothy talked about it all the
Okay.
time. So maybe that was the other blonde that you were thinking of.
And to Cynthia's point, at some point, it just sort of didn't matter to me. I was like, okay, I don't get it. I'm willing to not get it. and just be with the readings and people talking about the idea, the concept. And for me, with Charles Fillmore, over the course of the years, I've been in Unity for 25 years now. At some point in time, it started to make sense, whereas before it didn't. And some of that may be the aperture widening, and some of it may be opening to God mind in a more humble way. I don't even need to know why. It just every once in a while this starts to make some sense.
I agree with you. When I first used to read Charles Fillmore, I was like, oh my God, this guy needed an editor. What is he trying to say here? Now, when I pick him up, it's like, oh, okay. Well, it's still a little dense, but I get it. Okay, you know.
Yeah. And speaking of dense, this next paragraph is a bit of a challenge. Let's see here. Why don't we take that, like, just whoever will read, let's read about halfway through and we'll just stop and then we'll finish it off, because this is probably the longest paragraph I've seen in all of this Unity correspondence coursework.
Well, I'll take the first part.
Okay, thank you.
What is matter? What is the distinction between substance and matter? Matter, or manifest objects, is formed substance. It is an effect or the form or appearance of substance or mind essence in the physical realm after it has been handled in the mind or consciousness of man by his thought or image-making power. But I'm going to pause because it's a really long sentence. But it's a continuum, right? Matter goes to substance. It starts with matter, then substance.
No, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Matter is form substance. Okay, good. It's the reverse. Both substance and thought power are absolutely good. Man as a spiritual being is given absolute freedom to use them as he chooses. So matter, or the former appearance of divine substance in the physical plane, is dependent upon man's understanding and use of substance. Man therefore becomes a secondary cause in producing events and things in the manifest realm. Whatever the form, the condition, the thing that appears, it has been formed or produced out of the spiritual substance, and the mind essence always pervades it. The substance or mind essence never changes, but the form or appearance of things and conditions change according to the understanding and use of man's thought power. I'm going to pause there.
Yeah, well, that's a good place to stop. Thank you, Claudia. What do we think? What do we read? What do we hear?
Well, let me read the footnote. Number 1, matter is formed substance. God as substance does not mean matter, because matter is formed and God is formless. The substance that God is lies back of all matter and all form. It is that which is the basis of all form, yet enters not into any form as finality. Finality is the second cause, manifestation. It cannot be seen, tasted, or touched, yet is the one and only substantial substance. And that's from Keep a True Lent. And then footnote number 2 is secondary cause. What we see in the manifest world is the result of 2 causes. Primal or first cause as the divine mind, creating divine ideas or perfect forms, and secondary cause, as our thinking processes shaping substance from ideas and forms into manifestations. Primal causes are complete, finished, absolute. All that we manifest has its origin in a cause first we name divine mind. The one mind is an absolute, and all the manifestations or effects are in essence like itself. This being true in logic, it is not difficult to arrive at the conclusion that the effect proves the character of the cause.
Ooh.
So what comes to mind then is not all matter or form substance is positive, but it all comes from divine mind. Is that correct?
Yes, because as it says here, we have the absolute freedom to use substance and thought power as we choose. I was thinking what Lillian said before about, if we have a negative thought, we can create a negative cause or a negative effect. That the negativity is the cause, or the negativity grabbing substance and then turning it into something in the external world through our choice.
Through our filter.
Yeah.
It makes me think about our conversation about healing in the last couple months, where there are people who are not well or in need of healing, but you also don't want to blame the person who is ill. And I think about people who experience, whose houses burned down in the Los Angeles fires. It's like, whoa, this is a big one. Did their mind produce a result that would now make them not have a home anymore?
I hope not.
Well, in order to even answer that question, we have to be willing to take value judgments out and just look at it as just sheer cause and effect. Because I think that Mr. Fillmore, or whoever wrote this, is making an absolute claim here about the relationship between matter and substance, or between effect and cause.
Well, Della, there's also that saying, which is true. It's not what happens to you in life, it's how you handle what happens to you.
Definitely.
So, the fire happened. Did they create that in consciousness? Probably, I would probably say no. But now how they handled what that fire, what the loss of their home created is going to be the telling part, because that's just all material stuff, right? I mean, it might be, that's hard to handle. That's hard to say, but it's going to be how they handle it that is going to really make a difference.
Yes.
Backing up what you're saying there, Claudia, in our accountability practice, we have a saying, it's like life happens for me, not to me. And that's all a question of attitude. It's like, which attitude do I choose? Do I choose to be a victim of life, or do I choose to be a participant?
Well, the Lenten study along those lines, Marty, the Lenten study this week was interesting. There was this one section that was interesting, and it's like when something happens to you, rather than saying, "Oh God, how did you let this happen to me?" phrase it or turn it to a way of saying, "Oh God, I wonder how you're going to get me out of this." And I just thought, well, isn't that the journey of, okay, how are we going to do this now? Or I'm going to be interested to see how this miracle is going to work, as a, to be that curious one and the receiver of good, as opposed to like dwelling in the negative.
You put me in mind of that essay we read back when we had the prayer group, from Emmett Fox, where he talked about make God the senior partner of your life. And that we that you just said jumps into my mind. So it's like, in partnership with God, what do we want to create here? Because God says yes to our thoughts.
So it's like, okay, this looks going to be interesting. Take it away. Take it away, God. I'll be sitting here in the bus and watch to see where you're driving us. But we did get free will, so that is our choice.
It occurs to me another piece at play in the sentence, so matter or the form of appearance of divine substance on the physical plane is dependent upon man's understanding and use of substance. So if we think about the fires, maybe another piece of it is that understanding piece about where it makes sense to build, what defensible space looks like, all of those kinds of things. And understanding the larger concept that thought is formative from this. When I think about it, the appearance of divine substance on the physical plane is dependent upon man's understanding. Man's understanding to me is what I'm trying to do on Sunday mornings here. It's critical to give thought to, anyhow, that's a thought that came to mind.
I like this little piece in the Bible, the metaphysical Bible. I'm no Bible scholar, but this one has always been, it's on a little card I carry around with me that says, rejoice always. It's 1 Thessalonians 18, I think. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing. In everything, give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus toward you. Don't quench the spirit. Don't despise prophecies, test all things and hold firmly that which is good, and abstain from every form of evil, of course. But it was when I started aging and I couldn't even pretend to have any control over anything, that I realized I had to smarten up and really try to use what I believed about my higher power and about faith and all these things, and to just relax into whatever was happening. I'm not using your language here with substance and stuff, but to relax into what's happening and be thankful, because something is going to come out of it that's for good, for me or for somebody else. And that's really helped me to accept things that I don't like or don't want. And I guess, Marty, that's got to do with what you're talking about, substance and matter.
Well, aren't you forming substance with your thoughts there?
I don't know. It's not matter, right? It's just an idea. So it's substance.
The idea is substance.
Right.
Okay.
And the rejoice was the command, to create, matter. I'm going back to that fire thing because that's a tough one. We can focus on the negativity or on the horribleness of it all, or we can focus on the amazing parts of it, that the stories that we've heard, the people who helped, the clothes that were sent. And Suzanne had a wonderful story about her daughter sending sending to this, one young woman who was collecting cool clothes for her classmates because her house didn't burn, but they did. And the number of makeup companies that sent new, fresh makeup, not clear out your closet shit, but really reaching out and giving from your heart and money. And, so we can look at that and at the human spirit to help others, to express love. And we can feel that whatever situation it is, whether it's a fire or any other kind of natural disaster, how amazing we are as human beings, that it is our innate desire, I believe, to want to help, to show compassion. And that is touching the divine. So it's an opportunity.
Well said.
Well, let's go on, starting here. Who would like to pick up the reading? Let's read this to the bottom of this section here.
I'll read it.
Thank you, Della.
Man is in a state of becoming conscious of himself as a spiritual being. He is growing and unfolding in understanding of his Christ dominion and mastery through right use of his image-making power. Many of his thoughts and actions show that he has not yet attained the highest consciousness of perfection, a consciousness that is his divine heritage. It shows that he does not always form, make, or produce out of divine substance, body of God, that which accords with the character and nature of God, which is absolute good. The appearances in the manifest realm are not always in accord with the divine idea that lies behind them. Jesus instructed us against taking appearances as the basis for our thinking and feeling when he said, "Judge not according to appearance." Understanding the omnipresence of God, we know that his life and intelligence and substance permeate all things, and that there is, therefore, no absence anywhere of life, substance, and intelligence. This is a good affirmation to make. It will free the mind from many limiting beliefs. And note number 3, appearances, the divine idea that lies behind them. Metaphysically, appearances are manifestations, the materialization of a truth idea, the coming forth into visibility of that which has been affirmed, the appearance of an idea.
Thanks, Della. There's a few ideas in this part of the paragraph.
I kind of like that. The appearance in the manifest realm are not always in accord with the divine idea that lies behind them. That's, I guess that to me is kind of like, why the hell did this happen? Or what the hell is going on over here? But it's like the appearance, the good God is there. It's just how that showed up and the filter it came through wasn't always in accord with the divine idea that lied behind it.
And I think this is your observation is in direct alignment with what Gail was saying earlier about understanding in that section we read above, about the distinction between absolute good and human understanding of what that might mean. And we're struggling as humans to come into alignment with appreciation, because it says There is no absence anywhere of life, substance, and intelligence, which is another way of saying there's no absence of divine good.
It's just the human filter it comes through.
Right. Which is of divine substance.
Huh. Well, the substance behind the filter was divine, but
True.
maybe it got stripped of some of its divine, some of its loving qualities as it came through the filter. If God is love, God is wisdom.
Or maybe the filter just is immature or hasn't matured to its full divine potential.
True that. At least in the people I'm thinking about.
Including me.
Yeah, you weren't one of them.
No, I'm thinking of me. So
I'm
Well,
in an
but-
esoteric group that meets once a week, and our homework a couple of weeks ago was to think back on some disaster, tragedy, something the person had been through, and then tell the flip side of what really came out of it, what really happened, why that happened. And it was amazing to hear one story after another about what appears to be so scary and so bad, and how could God do this to me, kind of a thing. And then see, oh, well, a week, a month, a year later, this happened. And it was directly linked to the first thing. And that helped me a lot to realize that really, I mean, it's wonderful when real people will give you real stories and tell you the truth. Because reading is sometimes hard to understand. But a sweet person telling you some horrific story and then saying, but then this all happened. And there was about 6 of those, and it was very helpful to me. And it sounds sort of the same as what we're talking about.
I think that's one application of it, absolutely.
well, it also demonstrates that when we set our minds to it, we can open that aperture. We can actually choose to open it. A lot of it comes from just living a long time. And some of it apparently comes from making a conscious choice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you just told the universe what you wanted, right? If you're doing this studying, it's like you're calling to you. You're spending your time doing this, so you're calling to you that which you seek.
True.
Laws of attraction. I just told our son, he's 35, but I was talking to him this week, and I said, I'm talking about something, and I said, well, you know, Colin, when Jesus said, turn the other cheek, and he goes, I know, it was about forgiveness. And I said, well, actually, if you turn the other cheek, you're seeing a different perspective. So it might be more about seeing things differently. But I always love that about that interpretation of turn the other cheek.
Or do the unexpected. Yeah, do the unexpected. And it really allows whoever you're in dialogue with to look at it a different way. I really learned a lot from that when I was studying years ago, that it didn't actually mean to turn your cheek and be hit, but to do the unexpected, to diffuse the fire or whatever was going on.
I like that.
The other thing that hit me with this, or reminded me, particularly that phrase of Jesus, judge not by appearance. I think it's so important today to really be an example, because what's going on in the world, there is so much judgment by appearance. And what a person looks like, what a person talks, whatever. We had a discussion about this last week. And he said, if everybody was blind and deaf, there'd be a lot less judgment. So I just think that phrase, really judge not by appearance is really an important one today.
We have to be deaf too?
Well, if you have an accent, where are you from? I hear a lot of judgment with Muslims and accents. And I have one of my helpers who actually is Muslim, and she has a very heavy accent, and she shares a lot and she's just an incredibly wonderful being. And yet she's very open sharing of the negativity that gets thrown at her.
Mhm.
So that's how the deaf thing came up.
Anything else on this paragraph before we move on? Who would read number 6?
I will.
Thanks, Lillian.
What metaphysicians call substance, natural scientists name the universal ether. The very air is alive and with dynamic forces that await man's grasp and utilization. These invisible, omnipresent energies possess potentialities far beyond our most exalted conception. What we have been taught about the glories of heaven pales into insignificance compared with the glories of the radiant rays popularly referred to as the ether. We are told by science that we have utilized very meagerly this mighty ocean of ether in producing from it the light and power of electricity. The invisible waves that carry radio programs everywhere are but a mere hint of an intelligent power that penetrates and permeates every germ of life, invisible and invisible. Did you want me to continue?
Well, let's read the note, okay? Number 4.
Okay. The universal ether. The term ethers was used quite often in the writings of Charles Fillmore. It was a term that was popular among the scientists and metaphysicians of his time to explain how activity takes place in the universe. However, it has become apparent that the factual reality of etheric substance has been disproven by modern science. This lends to cause some doubt and confusion as to what Mr. Fillmore actually meant when he used this term in his teachings. It is important to point out that Mr. Fillmore's understanding of the idea of a dynamic universe transcends the vocabulary he used to describe it. This helps us understand that while physical science is subject to change, universal principle is eternal. Unity Physics 2, Blue Book. The appendix, the ethers concept. The Blue Book appendix has an in-depth section on the history of the ether concept that sheds light on the parallels between Mr. Fillmore's observations and the discoveries of modern physics.
Yeah, I was thinking as you were reading that, Lillian, that this correspondence course was written basically less than a decade after Einstein discovered the special theory of relativity in 1905, and the discoveries of quantum mechanics were yet to come, which were basically made in the 1920s. So Fillmore may not have had the benefit of those discoveries that were going on and the contemporary with the development of this course.
I just always translate ethers into atmosphere when I come across Fillmore's ethers, because he writes it a lot in his different, or I translate it into essence.
I tend to translate it into quantum foam.
Oh, that would take me down another rabbit hole.
Hmm.
But I think the point that he's trying to make here is that the physical, excuse me, the physical universe is alive with the manifestation of substance in ways that are not visible to human senses necessarily. Shall we continue, or does anybody have any other?
I just, universal ether, like, isn't that what we live and move and have our being in? Isn't that what Jesus called it?
And is it the same as spiritual energy? Does the word ether connect to energy?
Well, he uses the word energies here, right?
He talks about electricity.
Yeah. Well, maybe the next paragraph will illuminate that. Who would read number 7?
I can continue.
Okay, thank you.
Substance contains all the elements in a rarefied state. Form or matter is substance condensed so that it, where are we going?
Up to the top.
Is invisible in a three-dimensional world. That which is real to a metaphysician is that which is permanent, substantial, enduring. Organized forms or bodies in the manifest world are not permanent and enduring, but the elements of which they are composed are resolved back to the rarefied state from which they came. Thus, nothing is ever lost or destroyed in spirit. All is God, and God is all. Should we take a piece of ice, put it in a vessel, and raise the temperature, the form of the ice would disappear, and we would know the substance is liquid, water. Still, raising the temperature, it would next become steam and would float away as gases out of the sight of the physical eye. Because it is not visible to the physical eye, does not mean that it, I lost it here, that it has not been destroyed or lost. It has simply been transformed from a solid, dense state to a lighter and more rarefied one. Solidification of a thing is due to a decrease in the rate of movement of its particles. In the physical world, this movement is known as vibration. The higher rate of energy, the more nearly visible the substance is, until finally it is not comprehended by the physical eye. The highest rate of movement is in mind, in what we term consciousness, the activity of the invisible substance.
Hmm.
Then can you read note number 5?
Yes. Matter is substance condensed so that it is that is visible in a three-dimensional world. Substance is of the fourth dimension, a transcendent realm that Jesus called the kingdom of the heavens. The fourth dimension, which embraces and encompasses the other three dimensions, is also realization, the doing away with time and space and all conditions. The human mind, with its limited reasoning faculties, is bound by time, space, and conditions and can get no farther into the spiritual than reason will take it, which is why substance must be condensed for its appearance in our three-dimensional world. Ed Rabel writes, one of the problems connected with thinking about the fourth dimension is that some persons tend to think of the fourth dimension as the absolute. It is not the absolute, but only a dimension which transcends most of the current limitations of three-dimensional existence. The absolute is not any dimension.
Thanks, Lillian. Well,
That's a mouthful.
as you were reading this, I was pondering where is the author of this section going with respect to prosperity? There's been a lot of care given to this question of the distinction between substance and matter.
And did you have an answer?
I would say it directs to vibration. And the higher, eventually we come to the mind. So in our mind, we do something, and then substance is formed into manifestation in a lower vibration part. I think. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Leo. And that the power to do that is prosperity. That's what I'm thinking. Remember, in the very first paragraph, or the very first couple paragraphs of the section, we are admonished to avoid equating prosperity with things or money. And here I believe we're being led to equate prosperity with what Leo was just pointing out here, the last sentence. The highest rate of movement is in mind, in what we term consciousness, the activity of the invisible substance, which is the power to form substance into manifestation in the material three-dimensional realm. And as we've been saying, we can form something that we deem wonderful, or we can deform something that we deem evil and twisted. And the power to create all those things is the same.
Whether it's solid or not, you mean?
Right.
like health or a new car.
Right.
One or the other.
Or the opposite.
What, an old car?
Oh, no.
Illness and bills.
Yeah. So we just have a couple minutes left to our time together. So any last minute thoughts?
I really liked I really like the analogy of, liquid water, frozen water, liquid water, and steam all being substance, but how it shows up is the matter. It shows up as ice or liquid water or gas. You know, it's like an interesting analogy.
Well, what's interesting as you were saying that, Claudia, is that I'm thinking to what Janet said earlier about her question about energy and the form, at least in the water analogy, is related to the amount of energy that's been introduced into the system. So ice is got low energy and steam has high energy. That's relative to the different states of water. And that, again, I think goes down to the highest rate of movement is in the mind, the vibration, as Leo was talking about. What do we put our mind energy to? And how do we do that?
My takeaway is prosperity is relying on divine mind and not the balance in my 401k retirement fund. That's what I'm taking away for this week.
Well, if we raise our vibration high enough, do we then disappear? Is that what ascension means?
Evidently, that's what Moses did.
That's what Jesus did.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great metaphysical question, Cynthia, that Charles Fillmore spent a lot of time working on in his life. Gail, go ahead. Just unmute, please.
Just a housekeeping question. Is it possible to make the print a little larger on the shared screen?
What's that?
Is it possible to make the print a little larger on the shared screen? Sometimes it's a little difficult to read my glasses.
I'll work on that for next week, sure.
Thank you.
Remind me.
I might be the only one. So.
On my iPad, I can make it larger by squeezing it out with your hands. Can you?
Well, computers don't do
I know
that.
there's a way I can do it. It's just I'm not going to try to figure out right now, but
maybe I can. I'll work on it for next week also. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Sandy
Gail,
agrees.
if you widen your screen on your computer, it will get larger. I mean, if you widen the window on your computer.
It's a miracle. The substance went to a larger form.
It's a miracle.
Leo, go ahead.
I want to tell this group that I had a very good experience last week, and it's amazing how it all turned out, from negative to positive and all kinds of ways in between. And I want to sincerely thank all of you for inducing that change into me. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. That's
wonderful.
great.
Well, my friends, thank you, Leo. Thanks everybody for your heartfelt share here. I'm going to show up for Easter next week for maybe, I don't know if everybody can do that, but I'll be here. So we're going to do Easter. And so today, let's close with our prayer for protection together.
Can I just interject
go ahead.
this warning? I made a kind of nice little small donation to Mark Hicks. Little did I know this was going to come back to me. Can you see all this?
Oh, all the cards and the box of stuff.
The box of the book, the cards, etc.
Yeah, nice. I got one of those.
The best one was this little one, Emily Katie. But oh my gosh, I thought I should have been warned.
Well, you've warned all of us, so thank you.
That's why I wanted to show you this. Be warned. Because the box says, keep this box that the book came in. Keep this box because we'll be sending you more things as time goes by. I don't know.
Lillian's a minimalist, so she's not a collector.
And Mark's a promoter, so.
Thank you, Marty. And I want to also thank you. What a wonderful talk last Sunday at Unity, too.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. So let's do our prayer for protection together. The light of God surrounds us.
The love of God enfolds us.
The power of God protects us.
The presence of God watches over us.
Wherever
we are,
God
is,
and
all is well.
well. All is
Amen.
substance, all is well. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you, Marty. That was
Thank
great.
you.
See you
Happy
next week.
Easter, everyone, whenever.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.